Welcome. My name is Penelope Chatterton. Welcome to Awaken the Dream. My friends, I have a new best friend today. His name is Randa. He's the founder of the Life Experience School, and we have been chatting here, and it's been quite delightful. I think I've known him for some time, and we're going to have a great time today, not only exploring who Louis is and his journey, but how he got to be the founder of the Life Experience School. And welcome to Awaken the Dream.
It's a pleasure to be here.
You found us.
Yeah. It's good to be on the Cape. We recently moved to the South Shore, and we'll be exploring all these communities.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good. You've got many to explore.
I do, and I started out with East Sandwich, where I attend the Quaker meeting on Sunday.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. But my journey really began not here, but in the Midwest.
Midwest?
Yeah.
Huh.
I was born in Des Moines, Iowa. Grew up in an Italian family that was deeply Catholic. Attended Mass regularly at St. Anthony's, a little Italian enclave.
Big family?
Very big family, probably 60 to 80 cousins. All of them, practicing Catholic. So Catholicism sort of was the underpinnings of my journey.
Yeah. The mob went to church all the time.
And stood at the back and.
Sounds like you took up half the place.
Yeah, we did, and we had relatives that were not only saying Mass, but the youngsters were serving Mass. I was one of them. That was part of what the Randas did. We also donated all the major statuary in the church. The life-size crucifix was given to St. Anthony's by my grandfather, and several other beautiful statues of Mary. And
strong culture.
Years later, I find myself drawn to religious art in a circuitous way, not through Catholicism, but through the peace movement and through service. So,
fantastic.
Yeah.
So how was it awkward? Did you transition out, or do you feel that the Catholic roots are still with you, or how does that work? I mean,
well, it really became clear when I was in the military. I graduated in 1969 from the University of Iowa and immediately went into the Army National Guard.
Okay. Was that your choice?
Well, it was my choice to avoid Vietnam. It was a cowardly thing to do. I didn't realize that even going into the National Guard was an offense to my spirit. And once I got in, I discovered that I was a pacifist. And prior to that, I didn't understand, nor had I heard of the concept pacifism. I thought that was sort of a cowardly thing to define yourself as.
Yeah.
And then when I got in, I realized when I was, handed an M16 and instructed to fire into human silhouettes.
Oh dear.
That I was having flashbacks over the assassinations of my two mentors, Bobby Kennedy and Dr. King. I worked for Robert Kennedy at the university and co-coordinated that program, which was sort of the beginning of my service. At that time, I would take a group of disabled children to Mass every Sunday.
Yeah.
And that's how I discovered special needs children and the special qualities that they illuminate in the people that they're with.
You met them through the church?
Through the university.
Oh, really?
And
nice.
through the Newman Center.
Yes, sure.
And that connection sort of got me connected to special ed. I had my life changed with one visit to a therapeutic recreation class at the university, which I wasn't looking forward to viewing. I was to write a report on it with my cousin who I was living with.
Yeah.
And I came back just having discovered a side of myself that I wasn't familiar with. And that is, there was this element of nurturing and of service that I didn't think I was capable of, to be honest with you. I thought that was not...
It's not you.
Not me, and it wasn't a path that I thought I would travel. But I was discharged later on as a conscientious objector.
Yeah. Was that hard to qualify to? I mean, you can do it.
Well, you can do it, and you really have to be willing to sacrifice a great deal. I submitted my application, and it was rejected when they saw that I was a Roman Catholic. The just war theory sort of negated my claim.
Oh.
So that's when I began to take a look at some other traditions that were pacifistic, that historically were peace churches.
Sure.
And someone commented to me that you better just find the Quakers or you're going to end up in a lot of trouble.
Oh, wow.
Well, I ended up in a lot of trouble
Anyway.
because I found the Quakers too. But it validated this internal need I had to, to be of service, not to destroy anything. And years later, 30 years later, I became vegan. So there was this long progression of caring about what I was feeling internally to make sure that I was true to myself.
Yep.
And education sort of worked. As I say to my wife, Meg, every day, I can't believe I can be this nice. Because I'm with a lot of people that need more understanding and unconditional love and tolerance and acceptance than I'm normally capable of, but they draw from me the better angels, in Lincoln's words.
Now, by they, are you talking
the
about
students at the school?
The special needs folks that you met? Had you not been exposed to them before? I mean,
just that class at the university, and then I
Yeah.
started taking classes at in special education.
Yeah.
And that became, my destiny is to follow the needs of people who are less fortunate than myself.
Yeah.
And that's how I would fulfill myself. What
That's
happened with the creation of the school was a requirement that when I was discharged, I had to do alternative service.
Oh.
And I probably could have gotten around that easily enough because I was working at the Kennedy Children's Hospital at the time.
Yeah.
But I had an opportunity to take what I had created there, which was the Life Experience Program, and create a school.
Wow.
And I wanted to get out in nature and to engage young people in running a little farm and to sort of highlight their connection with the natural world.
Yeah.
And what I discovered time and again was those qualities that they draw from people are those qualities of a peacemaker. And we define what a peacemaker is as being one who draws from the person they're with unconditional love, caring, tolerance, acceptance. And when you're with special people, that's what's required.
Yeah.
And you listen more closely.
Yeah.
You choose your words more carefully in order to communicate more perfectly.
Yeah.
And what better way to promote peace than to bring special needs people into service? Because by virtue of their presence, they're eliciting from others a peaceful nature.
Yeah, that's so true. How beautiful.
Yeah.
What you learned from that?
And what I found and what I learned is that that is a vehicle for lots of other things.
Yeah.
And there are so many different projects that we've worked on. But when I came to Massachusetts, I joined the National Guard in order to complete that transition, and that's when I filed for discharge. Started the school in 1972, having found a little farm in Sherburne.
Oh.
And that's back in the day when you could buy property pretty cheap. Property value now in Metro West has skyrocketed. And
of course.
But I learned to some carpentry skills and renovated a chicken coop.
You did.
Where we ended up having all our activities, and the main building was a farmhouse, much like we've evolved into now in Millis. So we're sort of keeping with that that setting. Though we've been in other settings. We've been in a public library. We've been in a parsonage.
You've been all over the place. I've checked your website.
We've tried lots of different locations. And we've noticed that there's this expansion and contraction that's happened with the organization, and we have to. So it's sort of like the body breathing.
It's got a pulse.
It's got a pulse. The Life Experience School expanded to own 5 different properties.
Wow!
And we had the train station in Millis, the Lavender House, which is the location of our school now, and the Dowse Library and the parsonage, and we had the American Legion Hall, and then we owned our little farm and later a home. And that's when there was funding. That's before the collapse of the economy as a result of the enormous greed on the part of Wall Street and the manipulation of things. So we...
How fortuitous that happened when it did. And it grew, and the mission sounds like it was given to you.
It's clear that it was, because now that we don't have the places, the mission continues. So clearly the mission lives inside of us, and certainly is the heartbeat of who I like to think I am.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what I do each morning when I get up, is think about the many plates I'm spinning, as in projects that I need to address and further. And I love to dream up ideas that have never been conceived of.
Creative.
Yeah, Robert Frost's quote that Bobby Kennedy used to end his campaign speeches with, some men see things as they are and say why, I dream things that never were and say why not. So
nice.
I would always encourage people to, if they're looking for something to do something that's never been done before.
I like that.
There aren't as many obstacles.
I needed to hear that, actually.
There's nothing to compare it to.
Yeah. Do something you've never done.
So that's pretty much what we've done.
Now, what I've noticed on your photo gallery, where you have all these beautiful folks that find special things that they are good at. I mean, what I see in that creativity is everyone has something that they find through guidance, that they're drawn to either pet care or whatever. I mean, the variety that I saw looks so, everyone's uniqueness could be a value. I mean, they could find their mission within themselves of something that really meant something to them.
Right. Well, everything that you saw listed comes from the people that attend the program. One of the challenges that parents have is when they come and look at our program, they discover that there is no program, that each individual creates their program, and that we have lots of opportunities. There are things they can be engaged in immediately, and then we sort of explore, and we have a big board of their favorite things to do and the things they're good at. Yeah. And then we begin to observe how they move through the school, how they relate with others, and how we can, orchestrate some sort of activity or event that they can run with.
Yeah.
An example of that is one of our individuals was very Catholic, and she wanted to go to Mass. So we found that Thursdays the Catholic Church across the street has Mass, and that they would allow one of our individuals to serve. And for Mary, who has epilepsy and has seizures throughout the day, they trust her and us enough, and she's ever so bright and capable of reading whatever they put in front of her to address the congregation and read fairly lengthy scripture.
Beautiful.
And then when it was time to give away many of the things at the Peace Abbey, the one thing that we wanted to do was to make sure the statue of Mother Teresa, the original statue, had a good home. So Mary wanted to clean the Mother Teresa statue because she had a real affection for what her life was about. Sure. And then we made sure that she gave it to her church, St. Mary's in Dedham, and now it is in front of the convent, and she was there for the dedication. And the dedication plaque, when it's finalized, will read that it's a gift from Mary O'Connor.
Oh, how sweet.
And then on Mother's Day this year, we'll be presenting to the local church a prayer book. And what we found in places of worship, that there's usually some sort of folder or book that people can write prayers in. And they're usually spiral notebooks or whatever. Well, at the Peace Abbey, we created hardcover 1,000-page books this thick that people could open up and put an entry in, not simply write a prayer or a wish or a thought, but really document what they were saying to Spirit. And it would be held in almost perpetuity, because no one would throw that book out when it's finally full, and it will take decades to fill that book.
Fabulous.
And we asked the local priest, where the other folders are that we could copy to put in this one, and they were discarded. And they were discarded not out of disrespect. The folder itself was disrespectful.
Gotcha.
Right? You look at it, and it's on the shelf, and you recycle the paper, hopefully.
Yeah.
Where we wanted to make sure that we honored those prayers sufficiently to give them a place where they're together and respected. Yeah. So on Mother's Day, we'll be presenting that to the Catholic Church. So once again, the program is self-created. What are you good at? What are you drawn to? And then we run with it. I never thought I'd be back in the Catholic Church at Mass on Thursdays.
I love it. I love
but
it.
that's what they want, and
Yep.
that's what we do.
Sure.
Yeah.
Tell me, as a school, do folks live, the folks live there? I mean, do they come for the day program?
It's a day program.
It's
4 people spend several nights a week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there a curriculum outside of their individual creations that they do?
Not after they turn 22. So when they're under 22, they're
That's a
in the
familiar.
Department of Education program. So they have, you know, the core curriculum areas.
Gotcha.
Once they turn 22, then it's sort of life experience and vocational ed.
Yeah.
And most programs are centered on a particular path that people follow when they get in the program.
Yeah.
Well, we're free-flowing and open-ended, whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
And you know, some folks take you know, greater advantage of it than others. And if we're good educators, we can probe into what it is they love to do and help them find a way to express it. And that's what I love doing.
Yeah.
But it's challenging. It's much easier to just have a program you put people in,
Yes.
and they're expected to do the same thing every day. Every day is different at the Life Experience
Now,
School.
tell us again, because I want my audience to hear what you just said about doing something that you haven't done before, or taking that risk of doing something that's just new to you. How did you word that? I want to hear that again.
Well, once again, it goes back to Frost's quote that Bobby Kennedy said, and it's doing that which hasn't been done before. And when you do that, there aren't those obstacles that you'll find doing something that's been done before.
I gotcha.
Right? The establishment has not set up resistance to it.
No prior critiques.
No, you can you can find a way to get to your goal much easier because they don't even know you're coming. When I arrived in Sherburne, and I love the town of Sherburne.
Is it pretty?
It's a beautiful town. It's one of the loveliest towns.
Has it got lakes, or does it have a wall?
It's a sort of a farming community with equestrian centers, and it's quite wonderful.
It's pretty.
But when we arrived, they were taken aback by the school being established there because, one, I didn't ask permission. I had alternative service to perform. The tuition was free. So since when do I need permission to do something for nothing? Well, I later learned you do when you're starting a school in the Commonwealth. So the neighbors, who at the time were, understandably upset that this long hair was coming in, and they weren't sure what I was up to, so they contacted the superintendent to do an investigation to make sure that my curriculum was, certified by the Department of Ed, which they determined it was, but they not only discovered that, they discovered something they really liked about the place.
Really?
And we became very close friends with the superintendent and the principals in town, and they learned to understand why we were doing it as we were doing. In light of the students we had, what better way to draw out their higher person than to give them choices in the course of their education?
Yeah.
And some of the folks have been with me for 43 years.
No.
Yeah. One in particular who was so enthralled with the peace movement and the power of civil disobedience, he wanted to make sure that that R word was removed from the agency that certified and funded the program.
Really?
And DMR, the folks would come to our program and they would say the entire name, which was very upsetting to our group.
I would think.
Insulting. It's as though they don't know that that word is tucked in the word retardation, and he took offense to it.
Yeah.
And he wanted the agency to change the name. And I asked him, well, what do you want to do? And he said he wanted to do what Gandhi did, and he wanted to get arrested. I said, all right. So we did civil disobedience training. We talked about, how you handle handcuffs and how you move forward with expressing your discontent over an issue. You have to be clear on why you're doing it. And civil disobedience is really an educational process for the community at large. That's what that's about. It's not just to demonstrate, how brave or courageous or foolish you are.
You got some protocol you have to go through.
Yeah, so we learned all of that. And then I was decided that we'd do it on Valentine's Day, and we would notify the legislature in the Commonwealth, the governor, as well as the commissioner. And we had T-shirts made that had DMR with a slash through it. And it's on the back there was a heart that said, have a heart, don't insult us with a name that doesn't describe who we are, and it's offensive and obsolete. And so he wanted to chain himself to the front gate. We discussed the various things you could do, and that was one of them. He said he'd like to do it. I said, well, I'll do it with you. And Dot Walsh, who was the chaplain with us at the time, and Marty Schneier, she said they'd join us. So the four of us, along with the entire school, with a bullhorn, stood out front and said, change the name, and we were arrested on Valentine's Day, thrown in jail, got out, and about a dozen years later, they changed the name and they acknowledged Cordy Woods at the State House.
Oh my gosh, what a
and
beautiful
he has
story.
a beautiful picture with the commissioner of DDS, the Department of Developmental Services.
Oh.
And so that's what he was drawn to do. Huh?
DMR is gone?
DMR is gone. And it's not gone because of what we did.
Yeah.
It's gone because of the feeling everyone had about that word.
Yeah.
And we just demonstrated a commitment to, to sacrifice something to get it changed.
Yeah. You know, I'm often troubled by words around any kind of challenges. I mean, what is the right thing to say? Or, I mean, because I don't see challenges, because I'm always confused as to, does it have to have a label? Does it have to fit into something? Have you thought, I mean, do you know what I mean?
I do, and we bump into it all the time. Yeah, because the acceptable lexicon keeps adjusting to the culture.
Yeah.
And sometimes even disability, some people object to, and others who are disabled say, I am. This is, don't minimize it.
Yeah.
Don't play political correctness with, my challenge.
Yeah.
So you have to be careful, and you're not ever going to please 100% of the people.
Do you think that the process is still changing, and that there will yet be another expression?
I'm sure there will be.
Of
developmental disabilities. Disabilities will probably be dropped at some point way down the line.
I always say that because people run around with a mask, and I think everybody's got something, some quirk.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, we're all disabled somehow.
Yeah. Oh, don't
so,
you know it.
Some may show it more than others, and some may hide it more. So,
yeah, there's no, if there's uniformity, it's that we all have a disability.
That's right.
And some of them are more obvious than others.
Yeah.
And
we're all the same. We all have a heart.
Yeah. And those that are obvious, that are discernible in the general public, are the opportunities to promote peace, in that everybody's a little, we'd like to think they are, and mostly they are, nicer, more considerate.
Yeah.
They all of a sudden, they'll drop what they're doing to open the door for somebody coming in a wheelchair. Our species is evolving to bring out the best in itself, and in so doing, it has these little quirks to it that we call disabilities.
Yeah.
And nobody looks forward to having one in one's family or in the neighborhood, because it requires a lot of us.
Yeah.
But the species clearly is benefiting from it. Otherwise, survival of the fittest, it wouldn't.
All of us out in the supermarket these days, we certainly see, folks that have challenges. But I always think it's so uplifting to see. I mean, even very, very old people working the register, just to see, the age problem's not, I mean, it's not recognized, the disability isn't recognized. It's just very comforting.
Yeah.
There's just something about how wonderful that is, that exists.
Yeah, and we're all aging out, and as you get older,
not
you,
not me.
But I'm finding there are times when I, walk into the store and I don't look like a spring chicken. I'm just hobbling along, struggling with one thing or another. But yeah,
it's an interesting process getting older. It really is. I mean, we keep redefining what can we do now? What do we have to get rid of? But what can we put in its place? And I like what you said again about, do something different, or that that hasn't been done.
Yeah.
And that'll keep you going.
Yeah, that'll keep you going. And there's, the slightest imagination will get you to what hasn't been done.
Yeah.
And what's more fun than exploring something that's uncharted? If you do something that's been done, you have a whole lot of homework to do.
Yeah.
If you do something that's never been done, the homework is inside of you. You will instinctively know how to go about it because you've dreamed it up.
Yeah.
And sometimes it takes quirky forms. I remember when I went to Bobby Kennedy's gravesite at Arlington, and I noticed after I spent some time there and I had a cathartic experience, I love Bobby Kennedy.
Yeah.
I am the person I am because of Bobby
Really?
Kennedy. Yeah.
That's nice to say.
Yeah, there's, and I have pictures of Bobby Kennedy all over my house, and you know, it wasn't just his charisma; it was who he was and the timing. And that's true, of course, with Dr. King and the Beatles and, and everything in the 60s. The timing was right for these individuals, and I happened to be, you know, receptive to it. I was a college student, and I just absorbed this service thing, and I learned that from Bobby Kennedy. And I learned pacifism from Dr. King. Yeah. And I admired, so those two came together, and it manifested in the form of Life Experience School, and later the Peace Habit.
Oh, this is so exciting. It's very inspiring, what you're doing,
Well, thank you.
And you will continue.
We'll continue. We're in our 43rd year.
Yeah.
And I just, my wife and I, Meg, and I look at each other going, how long can we keep doing this? And it's like, well, not forever, so we need to find somebody who will do it after us.
Yeah, you really need to keep the bar up, and and with someone with more creativity going maybe in a direction that you,
absolutely.
I don't know about you, but I'm kind of plateauing with certain things, and I realize that if I'm feeling a little bit like I'm repeating something, then it's time for me to keep myself kicking. We have 2 minutes to go, so I thought I'd give you the word.
Okay.
Let's tell our friends too, I mean, we all get older, but the soul just has something else for us to do. And if you do plateau, that's okay. You observe it, see if something's a little tired in there, and then try and figure out how you can reignite yourself.
Penelope, when I question myself, and what's next for me, I'm going to come find time, not to sit here in front of cameras, but to have a cup of coffee with you.
Well, that would be very nice.
Because your insights will help me along the path.
Oh, aren't you sweet? Well, thank you, Louis, for joining me today. And I'm going to have to check out now. But thank you, my friends, for joining us on Awaken the Dream. We are going to talk to Louis Randa again. Thank you.